Okay, welcome back, those of you who made it back. So, for those of you who have just joined us, we finished the morning with quite a lengthy guided visualization. And we were in the stages of really taking the teachings about the mind and about what is our true self and our battles, if you like, with the ego, to kind of reflect on where we are now, because this course is very much about not just learning about managing the emotions, which most of the afternoon will be taken up with, but to really reflect on us now. What kind of mindset are we in at the moment? What are we looking for that can guide us? And one of the things about understanding the mind is recognizing that we can go deep within ourselves to get in touch with that intuitive self. Yeah. And the intuitive self, we're giving various names. Jung calls it the higher self. And to be honest, to be frank with you, I believe if you're a Christian practitioner, it's God within. So it is that sense of sacred space that we hold within us. And we were talking about the way that Buddhism defines that as consciousness, as awareness, as Buddha nature, this wonderful, pristine, pure energy that we can utilize the more we get into contact with it. So the guided visualization, I always start with a long body scan, because you don't get hypnotized, but you get into a very kind of subtle conscious state. And some people find the use of imagery difficult. They can't visualize. And I would always say to them, don't worry about it, because ideas will emerge. You're probably the kind of person who thinks in words or, color. So whatever comes, you can utilize it. But if you do have the imagery arising, it's really great to relate to that in the same way that we do with dreaming. Because to understand our dreams is a wonderful way of getting in touch with where we're at the moment. And so to do that, I think Jung's idea of identifying that everything in our dream is an aspect of ourself helps us to get to the symbolism of what our dreams are telling us. So the beauty of guided visualizations is you don't have to remember the dream or lose half of it, because you're going from unconscious to conscious state. Because you're still conscious, but you're very subtly involved in this fantasy, you can remember and then make sense of specific things that come up that are speaking to you. Yeah. So it's always important to do. You can do this again and again. You can do it on your own, and it's not something you just do once in your life. If you've got a question, if you've got a big question or a big choice, then to do this will help you, because you've got key figures there that can emerge, and the gift, which is always a symbol for what you need right now, what quality or what it is that you're looking for that can guide you. So it's a tremendous tool for actually being your own therapist. Yeah, it really is. And far better to get in touch with your inner self than to ask your mate, who's got their own ideas and their own projections, and will have all sorts of ideas. Well, what I think is best for you is, and it's never what's best for you. You know. So that's what we're opening up, what you know, and so that you can be self-reliant, and that gives you self-esteem, confidence. It gives you all those qualities that you can go into yourself and know that that is the most reliable source of guidance. Now, in Buddhism, we'd also say you're getting in touch with your guru. Yeah, absolutely. Because, you know, as Lama Yeshe would say, you know, if you want to ask me a question, then pick up the psychic telephone. Yeah? What he means is just meditate and request. And then the answer may come to you in periods of silence and reflection when you're not forcing anything, when you least expect it, or in dreams. Yeah? So I would be really interested to just spend 5 minutes or so on asking if anybody had a particularly interesting symbol or person emerge in their visualization that they would be happy to share with the group, so we could think about the symbolism of it. So is there anybody online or anybody here who would like to share something with me, with all of us? Oh, nobody? What about online? Is there anybody up there? Anna. Thanks, Anna.
Hi, Ondy. Yeah, and two aspects of the visualization. When you were leading us along the path and somebody gave us something to help us along the path, and it appeared was one of my gurus, and they gave me a staff which was like to help me walk. And then along the way I thought, well, I can just rely on this staff. And then it turns into like a very poisonous snake, and it felt like
Say
it was
that
a bit,
again. You had this, I've got the guru, I've got the staff. What happened
yeah.
after that?
And then a thought in my laziness came to my head, and I thought, well, I can just rely completely, on this staff. But then it turned into a poisonous snake.
Oh,
So then quickly I learned, no, this is a tool for me to use. I still have to put the effort in. It's me. This is just
yeah.
something that is helping me. And then at the top of the mountain, the gift was a word of wisdom rather than something practical or physical, which was I am all I need, along with all other sentient beings, but in a way, in the sense that I am
Was
all I
that
need.
somebody, sorry to interrupt, just to make
Of
sure I'm
course,
getting this. Was that somebody speaking to you, telling
yes.
you, or yeah, who was it?
I don't know. It wasn't
Don't know.
anybody I'd recognise.
Yep.
Um,
Okay.
um, I did have a vision, like it was a mirror of myself, but then I don't think it was me. I just don't know.
Okay.
It was just the words of you are all you need. There's nothing I can give you per se to help you reach enlightenment. It's all
Thank you.
within you, with the knowledge that we do need all sentient beings as
Yeah.
well. But if you would get me, but they
Thank
were my
you. Thank you for that. Thank you. And that's an interesting example, because here we've got somebody who probably does know the Dharma and knows what she needs to do. And she's in her visualization. I think that contrast of, yes, you can rely on me, but actually it's better to rely on yourself. It's very important. And that's something very strongly that Lama Yeshe used to probably say to many people, but said to me, if you ask him a question, he would say, I trust your Buddha nature. In other words, look to yourself. And there was always a tendency to ask the guru all kinds of questions if they were around, and if you were lucky enough to be around them, including things about relationships and stuff like that. People use them a bit freely in the early days, I think, and have learned that actually the most confident thing to do is to speak to them as if they were in your heart. Then they're symbolizing your Buddha nature. Yeah, they're symbolizing it. So, and then if you so that staff turning into a snake, I think is a really useful idea. Yeah. And then when you got to the top, you were also told you have everything you need. Ba-boom. That exemplifies the staff again, isn't it? That actually, you know, it's great to have the external, the guru there, and the guru is external, but it's internal, and also trust yourself. There's a lovely Sufi saying which always struck me as being a good advice, sensible advice, which is trust in God but tie your camel. Yeah, yeah, it's great. It's a great expression. So we go along with the Sufis there. So thank you very much, Anna, for that example. Thank you. Anybody else have anything to say? Because we can move on, but somebody might want to share something, or you can ask me later. But in terms of what you're seeing, you know, if somebody up the top of the mountain, these are some examples I've had which have been very powerful. Often people meet people who have been very important to them and have passed on, and they are able to speak to them and say things to them that they didn't get a chance to, and it like completes something of their grieving. That's very powerful. I once worked with some young people in a school who had all kinds of problems, and I did this with them. I've been doing this in schools and everywhere because it often has very powerful effect, very powerful outcomes. And she, you know, came from a difficult family, and she said, well, when I went up the mountain, I met my grandma who died a few years before. And I said, well, what did she give you? And she said, a big hug. And then afterwards, you know, she said to me, we talked about it, and she said nobody really listened to her. She didn't feel she could talk to her mum or her dad, you know. And I said, well, you've got your grandma now. Yeah. Now, the truth of it is she did not have her dead grandma. What she had was her inner wisdom as symbolized by her dead grandma, and the love that her grandmother gave her. So, you know, it definitely. Okay. So at this point, having done that, and some of you would have done this over lunch, so apologies if you're kind of going through it again, but I think it would be good to do a little bit of journaling now, of writing down a few statements based on your experience. And it's really there in the slide. So how do you think about yourself? What has conditioned you? What has been your conditioning that's really significant, that maybe makes you the way you are now? And the same, what are your habits and tendencies? And how do you feel about yourself? Have you got good self-esteem or low self-esteem? Just to make a note of that and connect it with the guided journey.
Ondy.
Yes. Yes, my love.
Thank you. And we had Kim raise her hand just before.
Where
Sorry
is
to
she?
interrupt. Kim, do you still want to say something?
Kim.
If you
Hello, Kim.
unmute, if you'd like to
I'm
unmute.
going to ask you to unmute, love. Can you do it?
Sorry. No, I think let's
Gotcha,
move.
Kim.
Am I unmuted, Ondy?
No, I can hear you.
You can?
Yes?
Oh, okay. No, I think let's leave it go. Let's move on. You've already started the next session, or the next part, which I think is very instrumental. So we can let this one go. Thank you, though.
Are you coming along to be your own therapist?
Indeed.
Well, let's do that then, because it will fit very nicely. Yeah?
Okay. Thank you, Andy.
Okay. Don't forget it. Write it down.
I've got it. Thank you.
Oh. Sorry, I've moved on. I'll go back. There it is. Well, I think we're getting a few novels written here. You're able to publish them. Brilliant. Love it. Just a couple more minutes and then we'll move on. Okay. Ah, the emotions. This is such a useful concept to have a look at. In Buddhism, we didn't have the term emotional intelligence. That has arisen, really, from people like Daniel Goleman and Peter Salovey, psychologists who really looked at how emotions were affecting children, really. But emotional intelligence is now seen as being EI, as being more important than IQ, our intelligence quotient, yeah? So the intelligence quotient, IQ, kind of measuring people according to their intelligence, was created in World War I, when they wanted to very quickly sort out who could be leaders. Yeah? So they created the intelligence quotient for captains and leaders on the field. And then with the emergence, really, of Buddhism, and then people, psychologists like Daniel Goleman going, oh, you know, we can create something that is a psychological construct here, and some other educators in on that as well. The term emotional intelligence was created. And this book is cited in 1996. So we're not going back that far, yeah? And the research that was done was shown that those leaders who had high emotional quotient, EQ, were more likely to be rounded, happy, successful people than the leaders who had high IQ. And that is a common understanding now, that really it's emotional intelligence that is perhaps even more important than IQ, certainly to living a rounded, you know, a life with good relationships. Because obviously, you know, there are some people who are loners and are out on their own, but generally those who have emotional intelligence, they understand others, they understand themselves, and this leads to what we call intrapersonal intelligence, where you know yourself well enough, you know what triggers you, you know you have a strong self-awareness, and you're able in situations to change the way you behave in order to get the best out of yourself and others. That's a huge skill. There's a huge skill. So that's what they look for in leaders now. When I say they, it depends who they are, of course. So here we go, to manage our own emotions and inner potential for positive relationships. So the first step is to get to grips with what emotions are and what are constructive and what are destructive. And how do we manage destructive emotions and turn them into positive emotions? So the first step here is the opportunity. I mean, I often do this in groups and pairs. I don't know how you want to do this, but the dictionary definition of an emotion is any agitation or disturbance of mind, feeling, passion, any vehement or excited mental state, which I think is really interesting, because the ultimate goal of practicing Buddhism and attaining wisdom is to actually not have emotions, so the mind is completely stable. And what the mind is then soaked in is wisdom and bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is not an emotion, it's a permanent state. Yeah. Whereas all these emotions, they come and they go. They're impermanent, like everything else. Yeah. But what we tend to do is we identify with emotions. Oh, I'm very impatient. And there we go. That's you stuck in impatience. You put yourself there. Yeah. I'm a jealous person. Yeah? Or he's a very angry person. Oh, and we label people and then identify them with that emotion. So one of the first things we can do is to change the way we speak. So instead of saying I'm impatient, you would have, oh, impatience has happened. It's an event. It's a temporary event. It's not me. It's not me. And that helps an enormous amount to to lose also low self-esteem. You know, if you think, oh, I'm so angry or I'm so this, then you're bringing yourself down. And that's what we tend to do. We tend to do it with the destructive ones, you know. So what is useful here, before we move on, and I don't know how we're going to do it, you can tell me, is to pick on some of these emotions and say which ones are destructive and which ones are constructive. Now, how I normally do this is I put people into small groups and they discuss it. And then sometimes they disagree, or sometimes they find that an emotion can be both. But as you're all Buddhists and you're all kind of well versed in you know, the emotions, I'm not quite sure how to do it. So would you just like to, I'm longing to get you to speak more. I know you're used to having a teacher just going blah, but I would like you to contribute a little bit, because it's that kind of course, you know. Maybe if I just pick a few and then you tell me what you think it is. Is that okay? Yeah, that's easier. Okay. All right then. So we'll pick on half a dozen, and we want our lovely little online people to be included in this, if they want to. Mustn't forget about them up there in the gods. So put your hands up as well, and maybe Dondrub, you can keep an eye on anybody who's got their hands up there and wants to say something. So let's start with the first one, anxiety. Constructive or destructive? Destructive. Oh, always destructive? Barbara's looking not sure there. Come on, Barbara. You have to unmute yourself. What do you think?
I think that for me could be in either of the categories. Anxiety for me is a cue.
A cue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's good. That in itself is good. Do you want to take that further, or is that enough?
Right, that's enough.
Yeah, it is. It's good. You see, this is really interesting, because we tend to think anxiety, who wants to feel that? yeah, is a horrible feeling. And actually, if you practice mindfulness, you're trying to avoid anxiety and be in the present, yeah, thinking about the past. So that's always the case. But what Barbara's saying there is if she has some anxiety, then it's a cue for her to sort something out. That makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah. So she's anxious about, oh, I don't know. Can we have an example? It's always good to have an example. Don't tell me. Felice. Yeah. Now did you hear that? Because we didn't use the mic for that. Okay, so I'll just check that I did it properly. So Felice was saying that it's a cue, for instance, if something's new, how is she going to prepare for that? Yeah, so that she's prepared. Yeah. So what we're saying here is that anxiety in itself, we don't want to feel it, but when we do feel it, it's good to be aware of why. That's where you use mindfulness. Louis. Yeah, that's a good terminology, isn't it? Action or paralysis. Does the anxiety make us just completely stressed out, or does it prompt us to do something? Yeah. And I guess people who are, I've got a friend and he copes with terrible, extreme anxiety, and it paralyzes him. He just doesn't know what to do next. So that is very destructive. Yeah. So it depends on our ability of our mental state to recognize it and then act on it in a way that will resolve a problem or prepare us. Yeah. Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you. And see, they're much more complicated than you think. And even destructive ones, you know, obviously we don't want them to happen. But what you're doing there is what we'll be looking at later, is you're taking a destructive emotion and you're kind of transforming it. Oh, I'm anxious about something. I need to be prepared, so that you're using a kind of confidence aspect, compassion for yourself, some sense of preparation to mollify that difficult emotion. Let's take another one. Okay, jealousy. No, it's horrible. Jealousy is so destructive. It's one of the most destructive emotions. I guess the only way jealousy could become positive is, again, with self-awareness, being mindful that, oh, this is jealousy, Ondy, and how can I change it? So the only times, so what we're saying is we're utilizing our destructive emotions to become constructive. So we're not, so it's actually quite important that we have destructive emotions. Otherwise, how would we change them? It's our path. Yes, the aim is to destroy the root of jealousy. Yes, so that jealousy never arises. But while we are practicing emotional intelligence, to be aware of the emotion and then, deal with it, which we're going into more detail, then it's helpful. Do you all agree with me? Yeah. It's just, so what we're doing is we're becoming a bit more friendly with the destructive emotions, because we're going, well, this is the way we learn, and everybody has them. And instead of beating myself up about it, I can go, oh, okay. Jealousy comes from very low self-esteem. So you can have compassion for yourself. All those, I hate to be sexist here, but as a teacher, as an ex-teacher in school, all those little girls in the playground bullying another little girl because she was more clever or more beautiful or whatever it is. I have to say, tends to be more little girls than little boys. That's insecurity. People who are bullies are insecure. Otherwise, they wouldn't bully. It's terrible for the person who is being bullied, but nevertheless, it shows the insecurity on the bully's side rather than the victim. Okay, let's go for, oh, send me one. What do you want? What do you want to look at? Grief. Oh, sorry, go on. Pride. Yeah, pride. Well, we've got two kinds of pride. There's the kind of pride which is, I've done a really good day's teaching here. You can have a biscuit. Well done. Get on with it. That's it. Finished. Yeah. And then there's the pride which is superior to others. The pride that looks down at others. Again, that comes out of insecurity. I need to feel better about myself with others. It's insecurity. Because if you have an authentic feeling about yourself, then pride wouldn't exist. So feeling superior to others is very destructive to yourself and to your relationships. But the other kind of pride, just feel, well, you did a good job. Pat yourself on the back. I'm really pleased with this piece of work, or this cake is great. Enjoy it, celebrate it. Agreed? Yeah? Yes. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Because it's feeling good about yourself, who you are, what you are. Yeah. You'll find if you investigate, all the destructive emotions come from a feeling of low self-esteem. If we hate, if we're angry, if we're jealous, it all springs from low self-esteem. Which, if you take it back to its Buddhist roots, comes out of our ignorance of not really knowing what the hell's going on. What is this life all about? And who am I and what am I? So the ego is desperately building itself up, and it fatally thinks that the destructive emotions will make it bigger and more solid and better. And we were talking at lunchtime about some shootings, yeah? And you can definitely use that as an example, that suddenly somebody feels that they need to be seen. They need to make a mark. They need something. They're desperate for some kind of recognition. And then through the terrible destructive emotions of hatred, jealousy, they do something like that. Hugely destructive. And that is because they don't understand the nature of their minds. Just like Lama Yeshe said, know who you are. Feel good about yourself. You know, if you've got some of these problems, then it's because, you know, of your conditioning or the fact that your mother was always criticizing you or whatever it is, you know. Just know why and know how. Okay, sure. Let's have one more emotion here. Give me another one. Fear. Yeah, fear is okay. That's a complicated one. Do you want to talk about that? You're going to have to take your mask off, and I think we should be handing the mic round because I, for one, am not hearing properly. Yeah, fear. Very interesting.
Oh gosh, where do I start?
Okay, is it possible you just while you're speaking to just lower it? Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
I hardly know where to start. I have always felt like I was very brave. I left home at 17 and didn't go home for 2 years. And, you know, my parents didn't take me to 5 states away where I'd never been before, knew not one human being. And I was afraid, but I was going to do it, you know, go and make my own way and this sort of thing. And I still sort of feel like that way. I feel brave and yet I feel fearful. I don't know where that comes from. You know, now at my age, I look back and I'm thankful for so many things, the good karma that I've had, you know, meeting the Dharma, being able to live in India and Nepal and meet the Dharma and meet some holy beings. And it's taken me probably 40 years to come to the conclusion that I don't have to believe every line that I read in a book about the Dharma, about anything. But this has been very hard for me, this whole process.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. So I'm going to take the gist of that, which I think is very important to recognize, that fear of leaving one's comfort zone probably stops the majority of people learning. You know, fear of leaving one's comfort zone stops the majority of people in the world from learning. Yeah. You know, so if you look around you, you know, people, they don't leave their hometown. They stay amongst everything they know. If they go on holiday, it will be with something organized. It's all about being safe and being scared of anything that is different. Yeah. So I think you're absolutely right in courage is a great quality. It's a great quality to just go out there and take up new challenges, because that's how we grow. Yeah. But fear can also be a positive in some circumstances, because, you know, if you have a child who doesn't, you know, that's what we're always doing with children, and we have to balance it. You don't put your hand in the fire, otherwise you'll get burned. Don't go out on your own after dark, otherwise it's dangerous. So all this, we don't want to fill them with fear, but we want them to be safe. So a certain level of fear. If you put too much fear into a child, they'll never do anything. Yeah. So you've got to give them freedom, and they've got to be able to take risks. And people would say that nowadays we're much more safety conscious. You know, when some of us were growing up, you know, those safety belts weren't in place. In fact, safety belts in cars weren't in place. You know, we had a much freer time. Whereas now there seems to be a lot of danger. So there's a lot more anxiety about people's safety. So a reasonable amount of fear is healthy. But what we can't do is let it stop us from making choices and decisions which will enable us to grow. Yeah. So it's a really interesting one. And I think courage isn't down there. These aren't all the emotions. And courage is a great quality. You need to be courageous as a spiritual practitioner. You know, they talk about the spiritual warrior, one who has the courage to go against the general rule of thumb, which is consumerism and materialism, yeah, and to follow a spiritual way of life, which will often take them or make them stand out as being a bit weird. Yeah. You need courage to do it because we're not in the majority. So any minority needs courage. And that's where the gay pride came from. You know, that you form a community and then you build yourself up. You've got the courage of your group. That's why Dharma centers are so important, because they support our spiritual practice. On our own, we'd be a bit, you know, lost. So they're so important. Okay, so when we're looking at things like, perfect transition, Ondy, anger. That's pride for you. So I just finally got the right slide in the right place. Anger. Yeah, here's the example of anger. This is Aristotle. I'm going to read it out. I know you can read, but it helps everyone. Anyone can become angry. That is easy. But to be angry with the right person at the right time and for the right purpose and in the right way, that is not within everyone's power, and that is not easy. So again, we're saying that, you know, anger can be devastatingly destructive. It's a really tricky one. It makes other people feel awful, and you feel the fire within you. And if you are an angry person, it's hard to control. Yeah. So the trick is, because often anger will come up when there's something wrong going on, like, you know, an injustice. So that, you know, you'll feel that we were again talking at lunchtime about all the crazy things that are going on in the world and how angry we can feel about a thing or a person. But the trick is to be skillful with it, to be skillful. Because if you're just angry with somebody, they kind of close up, or else they'll hit you, you know. You're not going to get a good response unless you're an incredible practitioner and you can just be like wood. That's the Buddha's advice. Be like wood. Incredible. I don't know how people do that, because I react to anger. It makes me very uncomfortable. It makes a lot of people uncomfortable. But if you can take that anger that is about an injustice and turn it into a positive, then the anger has been good. Think of Gandhi, you know, when he sort of got angry with the British for being in India. And then, but he never wanted to go down the route of violence, so he created ahimsa, non-violence, yeah? Non-violent protest. And they protested non-violently and kindly asked the British to go home. That was one of the things he said. We don't want them to be our enemies. We just want them to go away as friends. Yeah, brilliant, eh? Brilliant. So that anger was good. I think you'll agree. The same with Martin Luther King. You can see it when it's used wisely with non-violence. Okay, so let's move on. So you have a wheel of destructive emotions. And if you haven't, has everybody got one? What about online? Does anybody need me to read stuff out? How are we doing, Anna, with that, with everybody? I can't see them all. Has everybody got a wheel? Yes, Barbara says. Yeah?
Yeah, we can see this the slide quite clearly.
Yeah, you can see the slide, but I'm
Yes.
wondering if you have the actual document that was online, which is a
Yes,
picture of the wheel.
I did put it into the chat earlier. I'll I'll place it again in the chat for people to download if they
Okay.
didn't catch it the first time.
While you're doing that, I'm going to describe it anyway. So basically, these are really simple diagrams. You've got what I call the wheel of destructive emotions. And basically what you're going to do is to color that in. You can, and this is where the colors come in, because it's great to tally emotions with colors. Yeah. And that's entirely up to you. And you just kind of label each section. So you might have one section angry, then proud. And there might be an emotion that isn't on there that you want to put in because you know you feel it a lot. And then you just kind of fill it in. So if you don't feel it at all, which I doubt, just being realistic here, then you just have a little bit coloured in. But if you feel it a lot, then you can fill it up. Yeah. Then what you'll have at the end is one dominant emotion. And that's what I want from you, just one dominant emotion. So enjoy. Get the colours, get your wheels, and start colouring in. Are you guys okay on there online? You can always draw the wheel. You know, it's basically got 8 sections. And then you use this list on the slide. Well, if you put the just the name of the emotion around the wheel in each section, yeah? You're finding your inner child. When you finish, you can take a few minutes reading through the emotional competencies. That's quite useful. One of those documents. Now, if everybody's got a wheel, I'm going to share that document on screen for online. I'm a bit scared because I don't know if I'll ever get back to the slide again. You share. Oh no. I've got this box. I don't know what to do with the box. Oh dear. I'm going to put that over there. And let Anna share it. Or how does Anna get it? I don't understand how Anna gets it.
I can do that, Ondy. Bear with me.
Have you got it? Okay, all right. Okay, thank you. Okay, okay, okay. Okay. Thank you, Lou. Oh. Now I've lost this slide.
Can everyone on Zoom see this emotional intelligence competencies? Yes. Is it big enough, Barbara? Yeah. Let's see. Is that any bigger?
Anna, I was just able to make it bigger on my own screen, so it's all good.
Cool.
Thank you.
I've lost my slide now, but it doesn't matter for a while.
Thanks, Louis, for the advice.
See, this is where I can feel it. And so it's hot. Sorry? I'm sure once we get rid of the emotional intelligence properties, I'll have a slide. Don't know how to get it back. Do you? Aren't I?
That's on the screen share.
Yeah,
So when you start to, why don't you minimize that
minimize that. Okay.
so you can see your
Oh,
screen.
there's
There
my
they are.
screen.
So when she stops screen sharing,
So
you can
easy.
start screen sharing.
Okay. Thank you. So I'm just going to give you a couple more minutes. And as I said, when you've done your lovely little wheel, I want you to identify the one that seems to be speaking to you as the one that visits you most. The destructive emotion that visits you most. That's how we look at it. Because we're going to work with that. Okay, so thank you very much. You can always come back to it if you haven't quite finished. This is a brief resume of the emotional competencies, and I think it's very helpful if you have that full document. That's great that you got it because you can have a look at it. But just to clarify, this is what emotional intelligence and measuring people's emotional quotient, this is what they look to, how competent we are in each of these areas. So what we're doing here is we are knowing one's emotions, yeah? We're building up self-awareness and we've got a pretty good idea, won't be complete, but we've got a pretty good idea of the kind of emotions that come up more than others, yeah? Okay. And doing the wheel, you will have identified one, which we're going to work on later in a meditation. So don't lose that one, but that's what you've got there. The second one is the second competence, the second competency is called managing emotions. So this is what I was talking about earlier, when you have that unpleasurable feeling, yeah? Now, the word feeling can often be seen as a feeling is an emotion. In Buddhism, we talk about feelings as being either pleasure, displeasure, or neutral. Okay. So here, managing emotions, we're talking about handling those pleasurable or unpleasurable feelings that will lead into an emotion. If it's going to be pleasurable, then you can ignore it. Unless it's something that you know is causing suffering to others, like our lust for somebody's husband or wife, yeah? But that's might be a pleasurable feeling, but actually it's going to be very destructive. So, you know, there's those kind of instances. Motivating oneself, marshalling emotions in the service of a goal. Well, here I would say that that example of Mahatma Gandhi is perfect for that, because he recognized his anger, but he had a certain idea of what he wanted, and he very skillfully used it and marshaled it, kept his anger because it fed the feeling of injustice, but did it skillfully so that there was a good result, or a result at the time that they wanted, without violence and without causing problems to, well, you know, for sure there were problems. The English didn't like it and a lot of bad things happened, but his motivation and the way they acted was peaceful. The next one is recognizing, I'm getting a bit dry, recognizing emotions in others. That's empathy. That's a wonderful emotion, a really positive one. Recognizing emotions in others, not sympathy. Sympathy can be negative, because if you feel sympathy for someone, there's a bit of pride there. Can be. You're feeling better than somebody, and you think, oh, poor soul. Oh, they're going through this. Empathy is more like, I know how that feels. That's rotten. We're all in this together. Yeah. So there's a subtlety there, and of course, often sympathy is positive. You know, you have cards, don't you, in sympathy. Somebody's lost somebody, you haven't lost anybody, but you think it must be awful, but actually quality of empathy is still better. Yeah. Yes. Sorry, say that again. How do you get? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. But that's what we develop, isn't it? Especially as Buddhist practitioners, if you never lost anybody, then it's very difficult to have empathy. If you know, somebody loses a job and you've never lost a job, it's difficult, but that's what we're encouraging. Yeah. But nevertheless, I accept your point that if sympathy is without pride and superiority, it's constructive. Yeah. So you can feel. Yeah. 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 And you can think that must, but once you start getting into the realm of, oh, can I imagine if I lost my partner? That must be awful. You're getting into empathy, which is more positive because you're equalizing yourself with others. Yeah, which is part of our journey as Buddhists. Yes, Felice.
I lost my partner, my husband, almost 3 years ago. And for some of the most generous things that people have done is just, even if they couldn't come out, to just thinking of you, because they don't know what to say. So they're not fighting, or just a friend saying, I'm going to check in with you periodically, just so you know you're not alone, because that feeling of aloneness, of abandonment, can be huge. So that can help.
And that might have been from people who hadn't lost anyone. So therefore, your idea of sympathy. Yeah. But we always have to take care, because of the nature of the ego and the need to feel like we're doing okay. There can be, oh, look at that poor woman. Oh, poor thing. Then you're getting into a kind of sympathy which is a bit, I'm okay. Yeah. Handling relationships, that's social competence. That's also called social intelligence. Yeah, just being intelligent about how you handle relationships to get the best out of them and yourselves. So those are the emotional competencies. Interesting. So you can see that if you put that alongside Buddhism, bearing in mind that we've got our hybrid approach here with the psychology that's out there, that's scientific and not Buddhist, next to Buddhism, you can see how they fit completely. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so move, please. So here are our constructive antidotes. Yeah. So if we look at our list of emotions, what we need to do is to think, well, what emotion am I going to use that will counteract the destructive emotion? What fits? Okay, so I've got a nice, did somebody speak? No, okay. I've got a nice, easy example here. Feeling happy for others. What would that be the constructive antidote to? Who was that?
Jealousy, jealousy.
Jealousy. Yeah, jealousy. Thank you. Online as well. I've lost you all up there. Oh, never mind. Yeah, jealousy. Okay, so what we do is when jealousy arises on our lovely pristine consciousnesses, an unwelcome visitor, and with our mindfulness, we go, oh, there's jealousy. We practice feeling happy for the other person. This is not easy, but with practice, it works. So take an example. Okay. I don't know, you're a young person and you're trying to have a relationship and the person that you fancies somebody else. Yeah. We've all been there, haven't we? Okay. We've all been there and we immediately feel jealous. And what jealousy does, it starts to undermine the person we're jealous of. So we can come up with all kinds of things. Oh, have you seen the size of her bum? Oh my God, look at look at the clothes she wears. What does he see in her? Or whatever it is. We do. We put them down. It might go even further in that we end up bullying them. We get others on our side because she I'm using a she here. She's dead good looking. She's dead good, and we're not so good looking, and we're going like this. So we're doing all that business, and then we're bullying. So jealousy can be very destructive because that person is just experiencing being hated by others and put down by others and criticism. That person. Okay. So in that practice, if we were an incredibly special 16-year-old who was Buddhist, let's say, and they saw that this person went with the good-looking girl, we would manufacture and fake feeling happy for them because it wouldn't come naturally. Yeah? But we would go, I'm really glad she's going out with that boy. She'll be really happy. Yeah. And it's through gritted teeth because you're really not feeling it. You have to fake it. You have to fake it. It's not natural. Yeah. And then you feed that with kind of, well, what can I do if he doesn't? You go on like that, supporting that feeling with other constructive antidotes, which might be very patient and calm and just putting up with your suffering and thinking, well, he's not the only fish in the sea. You give yourself all those reasons that we all give ourselves. So what happens, and this is incredible, this is where the neurons in your brain that your awareness is training, start to make them go in different directions. What happens is the next time something occurs, you feel happy for them a little bit easier. It's not so hard. And if you keep doing it after a while, you're just like, well, that's great for them. Well, you know, I'm really glad they're happy. It happens, it works, but you've got to work with it. And all you need is mindful awareness to be able to go, that's jealousy. I know it's destructive. I don't want to feel it. It's not going to do me any good. It's not going to make him love me. It's not going to be nice for her. There's no benefit here at all. So I'm going to be happy for them. And you can use that in any situation. Somebody gets a job, you know, you didn't get the job. I don't know. You can think of a million examples. Jealousy is everywhere. It's a highly competitive society that we live in, you know, and jealousy is everywhere. It's very destructive. But if you can practice that, your mind then becomes so much more stable. It's wonderful not to feel jealousy. It's just great. And yes, it will maybe arise a little bit, but you can work with it. You go, oh, come on, Ondy, you just grow up. That's what we do. So those are the constructive antidotes. So patience, what do you think that would be an antidote to? Which destructive emotion?
Anger.
Anger. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Empathy, what would that be an antidote to? That's feeling for others. Sorry? Being judgmental. Yeah, being judgmental. Compassion. Compassion works for everything. It does. Yes, Louis. What am I doing? Yeah, can't you see anything? Somebody tell me. Somebody needs to help me because all I've got here is my PowerPoint. I didn't know you couldn't see this. Somebody needs to be on my case. No, well, how can I screen share? There's nothing.
Go down.
There's nothing there, is there?
Oh, you need to go back into Zoom. Sorry.
Oh, back into Zoom here.
Yeah. Go. No. Oh. Wow. You said you
Wow.
lost everybody. Maybe you signed out of Zoom.
How did I do that?
I don't know. Maybe you need to sign in.
We can still
So-
see Ondy on Zoom.
So I go. So
Oh,
if I
that
go here,
She's still on Zoom?
Yes, yes, Louis.
Okay. So
I go in
go
there.
back here. Now go down. You need to click in here. Oh, here it is. Maximize that.
Maximize.
Yeah, just hit that. Now go down here and click share screen.
But
And
now
then
this.
pick what you want to share.
Well, I want to share a portion of the screen.
Yeah, you need to pick,
And that just.
and you can maximize it or start.
So has everybody got the constructive antidotes now? I haven't got my notes, but it doesn't matter
Yes.
anymore. I'm nearly there. Thank you, Lou.
You are.
Keep an eye on that for me. It's not appearing. There always should be something up there. Okay. So, where were we? Compassion, compassion. Thank you for your compassion. Compassion works for everything. Compassion works for that girl you're jealous with, the boy, yourself, self-compassion all the time. Yeah. The constructive antidotes, forgiveness. What might that work with? Yeah, it works with anger. Yeah, it really does work with anger. You're angry with somebody who's hurt you. You see, where the compassion comes in there is that you're understanding that we're all human and we're all messed up, for want of a stronger word, and we're all struggling to be as good as we can be. So you have to forgive them. You know, whatever they do, it's not, it's rarely to intentionally hurt you. It's to protect themselves that they do things to hurt you. So compassion is really key. We are all struggling sentient beings. We are not enlightened. We are very aware of others' bad behavior and very rarely aware of our own. Yeah. So we all need to have to forgive ourselves and to forgive others. Yeah. So compassion is there. Feeling happy for others we've done. Equanimity, seeing everyone as equal. That combats pride. Yeah. Feeling superior to others and having understanding. That is also an antidote for many of them. So what you see here is you see that there are loads of destructive emotions and not that many constructive antidotes, because they cover everything, because love and compassion, tomorrow I'm doing the 4 immeasurables, don't know what you're doing, but love, compassion, empathic joy and equanimity, they are antidotes to so many destructive emotions. Yeah. Okay. So how are we doing? So we're all right with that? So what we're going to do now is just look at this, and then we're going to do a meditation. So this is what I call the 7 steps to emotional stability. I like to call it emotional heaven. Look, it looks like it's going up into heaven there. So first of all, now use the destructive emotion you've identified for yourself today. So step 1 at the bottom there. You identify the destructive thought and emotion through your mindful awareness, which you have just put into action. So you've got whatever it is, anger, jealousy, pride, whatever. It's not you. It's something that you're in the habit of experiencing. You need to be convinced of its destructive in nature. So if you're using a particular scenario and you think, well, they were this, that, and the other, oh, it's no wonder I felt like this, then you're not convinced of its destructive nature. Yeah? The third one is you want to make changes. Now that might sound ridiculous, but a lot of people think, well, this is the way I am. And who am I going to be if I'm not feeling this? And that happens when you start really working on the emotions and you don't feel emotions so much anymore as you used to. You feel like you've lost a bit of yourself. You really do. But that's good. It's not a good bit of yourself. And you haven't lost the innate self. You've lost some destructive aspects of your ego. So you wish to make changes. You've got to have that conviction. Then the fourth one is you know the antidote emotion that you're going to put in place. Yeah. Then number 5, you put this into action to change your mind. Like, I really feel happy for them. I'm really glad for her, you know, that somebody is happy. Such an incredible practice that you're getting towards equanimity there. And then the 6th one, you generate the feeling of the positive, so you kind of feel happy. And you just, oh gosh, that feels so much nicer than jealousy. And then the 7th one, you acknowledge your improved state of mind. Then you've got a set of habits that you can utilize when you are using your mindful awareness, your mind, to manage your neuron circuits of the brain. This is your mind managing your brain. Yeah? Now that's when the scientists say, oh, all these little blobs lit up in a person's brain when they meditated. That's why, because the awareness, the mind is changing the way we think. So great meditators, great practitioners, they've just got lit up blobs all over their brain. Yeah. And the destructive emotions don't arise or just slightly and then go. Yeah. So we okay with that? Should we do a meditation? Okay, yeah. Say that again. You do want to have a look at that again? Yeah, let's just have a look at that a minute, because it wasn't up there long, was it? So yeah, do that now. You've identified your destructive emotion. Now identify the antidote you're going to use in the meditation. Sorry, I can't hear you. I'm really sorry. And you feel jealous of that? That's a very good question, because it's kind of mixed. What
Andy,
you
could
need
you
to
please,
say,
Andy,
what
could you
you-
please repeat the question? We in Zoom land.
oh, you didn't hear that.
No, thank you.
June, isn't it? June said, what if you are jealous of another Dharma practitioner who has greater faith? Is that negative? Yeah, this is a good question, because it's kind of like a positive, you wish you had faith. So you wish you had that. So that's what you need to do, is rejoice or feel happy for, whatever term you use, for that person, and thinking, what incredible faith. And then, but then you kind of bring it back to yourself. And I hope that one day I can feel that faith. So what are you asking? Well, the antidote is feeling happy. Feeling happy for others. You're feeling happy for the person that has the faith. Yeah, yeah. Because that is a bit of jealousy, isn't it? You're talking, so the antidote to jealousy is feeling happy for them. Yeah. Yes.
Wouldn't that also be understanding? You could go to that person and say, I really respect the way that you handle the Dharma, and you're saying, how do you see that? How do you do that? And then have a conversation
Yes.
and maybe use that as a motivation instead of jealousy, saying, okay, I respect that. How can I be more like that or utilize this technique this person's using?
That's beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful. So there we have an example of how you can use several antidotes for the same destructive emotion. And you're going to need as many tools as you can, because as well as the antidote emotions, you're going to have to be taking deep breaths, standing back, going outside for a bit of fresh air, talking to yourself. You're going to have to be doing all that as well. Yeah. Tell me when you're ready to meditate. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to move down to this 7 steps that better. Okay. Okay, so let's meditate. So we're going to meditate for about 15 minutes. We're going to start with mindfulness of the breath and make a motivation. And this utilizes visualization and a kind of analytical, because we're thinking about something rather than stabilizing. So it's a different kind of meditation. So I'm going to talk you through it, and you just go through it like the journey it is. Okay, so first of all, let's relax, let go, take some nice deep breaths, find our posture, and do a few minutes of mindfulness, just following the breath and stabilizing the mind. I want you to recall a scenario, a situation when the destructive emotion that you've identified was at its worst. You were really feeling awful, perhaps saying things or doing things. It really got a grip on you. And take it easy with this, because what we're doing is reliving the destructive nature of that emotion. So just to ensure you believe it's destructive, how is it making you feel? And look in that scenario. Can you recall? That's heat, cold, churning. Take yourself there. And really identify that it's destructive. Know it. And think, I really don't want to be bullied by this emotion. I want to change. And then think, what would have been effective in that scenario? What antidote or technique or emotion? And then see if you can replay the scenario, generating those constructive emotions and acting on them, how they affect your actions. how the scenario plays out differently. And then dissolve the scenario into your heart and generate there the feeling of this positive emotion. Just let it fill your body with light. And bathe in how peaceful and calm and how different you are. And I think, if I could do this every time that destructive emotion arose, wouldn't it be wonderful? And send that light out through the pores of your skin, out to everybody, anybody who you might have been unskillful with due to the dominance of this emotion. And just see the peace and calm and the improved relationships, and then dissolve everyone and everything and just bring that light back into your heart. And feel this as your higher self, your Buddha nature, that lovely, pure, untainted state of mind, luminous. And with great compassion towards yourself, acknowledge your improved state of mind. And then just rest in mindfulness. Few minutes of mindfulness meditation, just bringing you to a very stable, comfortable place within the spaciousness of your own mind. and end your meditation. So folks, I just want to refer you to the last document. I don't want to do it now with you because I think we need to wind this up, and you work quite hard and the mind gets tired, yeah? But I just want you to be able to look at this on your own sometime if you haven't seen this before. These are the 6 factors. Have you got that, Anna? Because I'm not fiddling around, I daren't.
Yes,
6
Ondy.
factors that stimulate disturbing emotions, yeah? As this is also a great support, yeah? Because we don't want to say, well, this is great, but it's quite simplistic, because situations can be very complicated, yeah? So all we want to do is to be aware of how some external factors contribute to our disturbing emotions, and take care when we're vulnerable not to be affected by them. So this is Buddhist roots here, and you will see that in the brackets is the original Buddhist terminology: bad company, distracting narration. This was before social media. So, you know, dirty stories circulating the monasteries. I don't know, whatever. Familiarities, latencies, those are the Buddhist terms. And then next to them, perhaps something that is a little bit more relevant now. So society, bad company, getting in with the wrong crowd. Your friends being people, you know, who are heavily into drugs or alcohol, or are prone to doing unkind things. I don't know. So it's being aware of whether, this is where Sangha comes in. You know, it's being aware of who are your spiritual friends, who will support you, and who is going to influence you, because we're not there yet. And sometimes we need some strength around us if we're not being as courageous as we would like to be. I'm not going into the detail, but you can read it later. Media. Okay, this is a huge force in the world. You know, some of the things that children have to be educated about now is pornography, you know, and how that is affecting their lives, being exposed to pornography. So, you know, taking care of what you expose yourself to on social media, the scrolling through things, the looking at gossip, the following gossip up, getting involved in distracting narration, basically, you know, just to take care. Our habits, well, that's what we've been working on, the habit of our destructive emotions. So, well, you're doing that already. And that's it. You can read through the necessary causes and conditions. It's very interesting. The most interesting thing in my mind is inappropriate attention, because when we have a very difficult situation, we dwell on the object. So the scenario that I mentioned of the person walking down the corridor and seeing 2 people, you know, something's happened to just prick the ego a little bit, just a little ping, and then it's with you. You're giving it inappropriate attention. You're making it all about yourself. Yeah. That's a really powerful one. So watch that, because we do it. We can't let it rest. We can't put it down. So we have to practice hard at doing that. I think you'll find that interesting to read. I think we're too tired to read it together now. Enough of that, because I would just like you to give you 10 minutes in case anybody wants to ask a question or have anything clarified. And maybe a useful thing to do here would be to go back to your objectives for the day that you made at the beginning of the day, what you wanted to get out of the day. Yeah. And just check up that you got what you expected. And I know a couple of you weren't here in the morning, but what we were basically doing was saying, well, why am I here? You know, why did I come on this course? What did I hope to get out of it? So you could just be thinking, well, I've only been here a couple of hours. What's the takeaway? What am I taking away from this that stands out? So that we can identify and be really clear that we got something useful. Yeah. So, any queries, any questions? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Yes, I don't know your name. Octano. Octavio. Don Drob's got the mic for you, Octavio.
Oh, did you study with Lama Jeshi?
Did I?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't say, did I do much study? I didn't do much study with him, but he certainly got hold of me and sorted out what I should do, where I should go, what I should do. Yes, I met Lama Yeshi, and yes, he was my guru. He still is, yeah.
Thank you.
Did you?
No, but I used to go. I used to go to this stupa or Buddhist center in California,
Ah,
and I didn't know his ashes are there.
that's right. That's right. I haven't been there, but I can remember when it happened.
So that really surprised me. Because I didn't find out till I've been here for years.
Mm.
And then Lama Sopa, he lived in Soquel, where he might still be there. I don't know.
I didn't hear that last bit.
Lama
So
Sopa.
isn't there?
He lived or lives in Soquel, which is in Santa Cruz,
Oh,
Santa Cruz,
right.
California.
Is that where he lives right now? Yeah,
Annapolis.
yes, yes, yeah.
So yeah, I didn't know that.
No.
You know, when I lived there. So
Well, you know, if you are still able to see some videos of Lama Yeshi, I think it's really good to do that, because you capture his energy if you didn't even meet him. You know, you can see how kind of revolutionary he was for Tibetan Lama. Very inspiring. I do feel blessed to have met him. Okay.
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Are we okay? Anything happening here? What about online? Anything happening up there? What about that cat? Meow.
I think she's taken over hosting. Ondy, thank you so much. I'm working on the 8 thoughts that turn the mind at the moment, and you've just really kind of backed that practice up, and give me more faith that you can change your mind. We
Yes.
are pliable, and just overall, just a lot more confidence and faith in myself, and in the teachings and Dharma and in my personal practice. So thank you so much. It's really impacted on me today, Ondy. Thank you.
Anna, it's the Dharma. What can I say? It's brilliant psychology, and we come at ourselves from every angle, and different angles suit different people. Yeah. And you do a course, and you might have been studying for 40 years, and you go, oh, something else falls into place. So it's such a gradual journey, really, but rewarding. And I'm very grateful for all the experienced people who have come together to do this and support the centre and support me. It's really great to meet you all and work with you. And you guys up there in space. So I think we're done. I think that's lovely. Thank you so much, all of you. Hope to see you again. Thanks, Anna, for
Ondy,
hosting.
thank you.